The question is the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Dawson.
Well, thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. Preparations for Tropical Cyclone Debbie got into full swing in the days before it crossed the coast in my electorate of Dawson, which was directly hit by the cyclone. Now, North Queensland is no stranger to cyclones, and many of the locals knew that they would be in for a tough, long week as it approached. Radio announcers prepared themselves for days on air because they're often the only means of communication with the outside world on what the cyclone is doing once the power and the telecommunications go out. 5 announcers stayed on rotation at 4MK and Star FM, with Dave Perkins, Barry Hamilton, Rob Kidd, Emily Jane Palmer and Scott Linden getting very little sleep. At Triple M it was Jay and Dave, Ange and Joel, and Jono and Mickey manning the fort. And veterans of quite a few cyclones, Meacham Philpott at Tropical North with Tegan Philpott, Kathy Border and Loretta Ryan also did a fantastic job. Newspapers these days with the online front at 24 hours news coverage, and we had at the Daily Mercury, the Mackay newspaper, the team there, Campbell Jelly, Jacob Miley and Tara Cassidy, pumping out community alerts all through that cyclone period. And in the Whitsundays itself, at the Whitsunday Times and the Whitsunday Coast Guardian, both pre and post the cyclone, we had Sharon Smallwood and her great team of reporters on the ground alerting people. That communication is vital for any community that's facing a natural disaster like this. I'm going to say doctors and nurses got themselves ready. I heard of one nurse who left her home at the beach to stay in town because she knew she would be needed at the hospital. Another nurse stayed with an elderly patient who was discharged from hospital before the cyclone because she knew that patient would be scared and alone if the storm hit. Before the cyclone had crossed, the Australian Army was already on its way to the affected area, and the day after the crossing I met with the State Recovery Coordinator, Brigadier Chris Field, and his team, who were on the streets delivering fresh water to people who had no water, no services. And I've got to say, there was this really special group, a really special group of volunteers on the ground. Their name is Team Rubicon, and they are made up predominantly of ex-servicemen and women, people who have served this country. They've done enough for this country, and yet they're back home in civilian life now and serving the country again in times of natural disaster. Locally, there were the Volunteers Whitsunday group led by Joe Sweeney and Andrew Sloan and so many others, hundreds of people that got together helping out their mates. The Lions clubs all joined together to feed volunteers and to feed locals. You had people like Restaurateur and well-known Whitsunday's identity, the owner of a restaurant there that actually went out of his way to feed something like 4,000 people across 2 days. The same thing happened on Hamilton Island, where the Oatley family went out of their way to feed everyone there. I met with SES volunteers from the local region, from state and interstate, Red Cross volunteers, people out there lending a hand to families who had their homes destroyed or damaged, and they were cleaning debris from yards and streets. In the days after the crossing, the whole region was actually littered with energy worker trucks and vehicles. Many of them stationed at the Mackay Showgrounds or up in the Burdekin. Teams from Ergon and Energex, they worked for a fortnight to bring the power back online. It was extremely quick, ahead of schedule, right across the Whitsundays in the Mackay region. And so to the many emergency service workers, health workers, the volunteers, I've got to say our region owes a great deal of gratitude for their hard work, for their lack of sleep during that ordeal. Many businesses and dedicated staff in the Whitsundays did an amazing job to get the region back to normal. We now have visitors from around the world coming once again to enjoy the beautiful Whitsundays, and many of them would have no idea that the cyclone actually crossed less than 2 months ago. And while there's some island resorts that have work to do and a few mainland businesses that are still to get back on their feet, the speedy recovery to date should be applauded. In the days after the cyclone, there were many people stepping up to the plate, and I would love to acknowledge them all. But what I would say is that in the time of that natural disaster, people of Mackay and Whitsunday showed their true mettle.
Thank the member for